Warning, the following presentation may contain commentary of a political nature. I don't know for sure yet. I haven't recorded it, but it's about a presidential candidate. Any of the statements made in this video do not support or endorse said candidate politically, or any candidate for that matter, and do not necessarily reflect the views of the commentators making this commentary. That's just me. Dr. Kendo. Why am I still talking like this? Let's just go. Hello again, YouTube! This is Dr. Kendo, and I'm back with Scribblenauts Unlimited. This is the Object Editor Commentaries, where I create your favorite characters in the Object Editor for Scribblenauts Unlimited. It's only available on the Wii U and the PC versions. I know that Scribblenauts Unlimited recently came out on mobile, and it's been out on 3DS for kind of a while, but the 3DS and the mobile versions do not have the Object Editor. That's something that I get asked, like, every single day. Anyway, let's start off with a businessman for today's, I would say, sort of odd creation. I don't mean that okay, let's retract a bit. It's odd how we came to today's request. Let's say that. I basically was making Fallout's Vault Boy, not Pip Boy, Vault Boy, in the Object Editor in the last episode, and I mentioned something about when you use a toupee, which is the stamp we just took right now, that it looked like Donald Trump's hair. And I said if anybody wanted to make Donald Trump in their game for some reason, that would be good hair to use. You know, I didn't experiment with a whole lot of other hairs, but I thought that was really Trumpish. So then basically, I create what you guys want, and what you guys wanted was Donald Trump. I suddenly had a bunch of comments asking for Trump, so we're gonna create him. I'm gonna do sort of a caricature. The reason that I often don't like to create, sort of plain human characters, like YouTubers, for example, or just like plain humans and stuff, is that it doesn't take a lot to edit them, and make them look actually human. Like, they look very cartoonish. It's like when I can create Freddy Fazbear or Sonic the Hedgehog or all these other things from various franchises. Those are all like fictional, either mutants, animatronics, creatures, some sort of living humanoids that are not so human-like and everything, and they can have more design, and it just, I don't know. Humans are too plain for me. So keep that in mind, and also know we won't just leave this episode to Donald Trump only. I will also create something that I've wanted to create for a long time. We'll get to that later. So I'm going to, again, make sort of a cartoonish caricature almost of Donald Trump, and what I kind of picture are the features that I guess we could make stand out. So for instance, his eyes, I always feel like his eyes are kind of squinty, and then his face is typically sort of orangish. It almost looks like a fake tan color almost, and more so than his hands or wherever else we see. And his eyes, actually, what's funny is that while they are a lot of the time squinty or whatever, also around his eyes is sort of a lighter color. So it's almost like if he did spray tan or something, it didn't get to that part of his eyes, I guess. So we used goldfish, the bottom fin, for not only the eyelid pieces above and below the eyes, but also the whites of the eyes. A dot is the colored part of the eyes, a pimple for the pupil, the black part. We put an ear on underneath the toupee, so it's like his hair goes over his ear, and then we've got a nose, N-O-S-E, and lips for the lips. Really what you want to try to just get is the coloration and stuff if you're going to go by this design. But I'm going to read some background information and fun facts, which is what I always do when I go into the scripting or properties editor in this game. And for this one, I prefer not to get into politics on this medium, so I'll be doing what I always do when reading background information and fun facts here. That usually includes talking about the positives or major moments in time surrounding the creation that I'm doing in each episode, so please understand that my statements are not meant to publicly endorse or bash any presidential candidate. Anyway, here we go. Donald Trump is an American businessman, author, TV personality, and most recently, candidate for the United States presidency in the 2016 election. He's been a celebrity for years, and he's had an extensive business career. Trump began working for his father's real estate company, being involved in many projects from that, and the Donald went on to buy, build, improve, and or sell many properties. One big example was the Woolman ice skating rink in Central Park, as there were repairs that were desperately needed, and while the city started them in 1980, it was still not even near completion by 1986. Donald Trump stepped in at no cost to the city and completed the repairs in 3 months for $1.5 million, that being $750,000 less than the initial proposed budget. We could go on, but I did want to end off just mentioning 2 Easter eggs of sort, I guess you could call them. They may or may not be obvious. Fans of the movie Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, can actually look out for a Donald Trump cameo in the film as Kevin McAllister is walking through the Trump-owned Plaza Hotel and asks for directions to the lobby. you'll hear the Donald reply with, "Down the hall and to the left." The other last fun fact I'll mention is that apparently back in November of 1999, the band Rage Against the Machine sort of predicted a Donald Trump presidency as they released a music video for the song called "Sleep Now in the Fire," showing a clip just after the 1-minute mark where a man is holding a sign that says Donald J. Trump for president with the year 2000 on it. And now he's running. But anyway, one of his, I guess, political standpoints, and again, this does not reflect my political view, or it doesn't mean that Trump is bad or good in any way coming from me. You guys can have your own thoughts, but coming from me, this is just a neutral statement. Something that he said is he wants to build a wall for keeping illegal immigrants out, and just having borders around the United States. And so I thought, okay, we may have to watch out for getting offensive and whatnot, but basically I just had it to where it's professions. So this doesn't necessarily mean illegal immigrants or something in this game. You could also type in aliens, as often sometimes people have called immigrants that are illegal, they call them illegal aliens, but that would just mean like supernatural aliens, not the kind of aliens we're looking for. But in essence, I went into the scripting tool, and basically that Donald Trump in this game, when he sees a profession like a janitor or a construction worker, which we'll place down here, I then have him scripted to create an object, and basically what he creates is a long wall. So that's wall with the adjective long on it. And the whatever the character is, like that construction worker, for instance, is trying to walk past that wall and cannot get through it. And neither can I. Donald Trump wants to keep me out. I'm just kidding, of course. But yes, there is the Donald Trump, and you know what? He even keeps himself out because I started him off with a businessman, and that is a profession. So if you put a Trump and a Trump next to each other, they will do this, where it's just never-ending wall spawning, I guess, as long as they can see each other. So there you go. Kind of fun, I guess. This video may get a whole bunch of dislikes just because it's Donald Trump is, part of the content, but I didn't choose this for anybody who wants to go that route. I say it in every episode, but every single week, I will just create whatever is most popular or most requested by the most amount of different viewers. So on a completely different note here, for creations, we're going to start off with the mecha as the source object, and, I never really get to create what I have wanted to create in Scribblenauts, i.e., as I said, I create whatever you guys want to see, and that's great. I think that that's the way that I can please the most amount of different people, and there's no way you can actually please everybody in this world, no matter what you're doing. You could be giving every penny you own to the greatest cause in the world, and you'll still have critics. So that being said, I have sometimes, it's not very often, I have sometimes gotten comments where people will ask me to create what I want to see. They say, Dr. Kendo, let's see your own suggestion for creations and go ahead and create something. I've never been able to do this because, again, I wanted to create whatever you guys wanted, and my time is so limited in life, and it's so valuable and precious and small. But this time, since I was just creating that one object, and since I know some people may or may not like Donald Trump or whatever, I went ahead and added another character for us to create. I'm adding on a proton pack onto the arm piece of the mecha, because we started off with the mecha as the source object and added knee pads there as shoulder pads. What I'm going to be creating now is the Marauder from Starcraft 2. So anybody who's a Blizzard fan or who's played Starcraft 2 or who hasn't can go check it out, but the Marauder is actually probably one of my favorite units, not necessarily by what he does in the game, but definitely by his voice and just how epic it looks and all of that stuff. So I always thought, when people have asked me, Dr. Kendo, what do you want to see created in Scribblenauts, if you could make your own objects? Well, this was one thing, was some Starcraft units, and so we also put an engine behind the proton pack, and now we're going to put a flare gun behind the proton pack, and we're gonna, of course, make that flare gun just a bit bigger, I guess, right there, and move everything. And so basically it's supposed to look like he's got these huge blasters on his arms, because the Marauder is basically, quick summary, I guess, is that he can't attack the air, but he's really good at attacking the ground units, and he has this sort of shockwave type grenade that will actually slow units down when he hits. And so the suit of the Marauder has the blasters on both hands, and so he's all about explosives and any sort of detonation type weaponry, just, explosions. That's what we could say. And so I've taken the back thigh piece of a bear, so it's the one that's in the back, but it's actually its front legs. So, just go to the one that's behind. And we can use that for the legs, not only the upper thigh parts of the mecha source object's legs here, but also down near the feet. And we do want the mecha's feet to kind of point out
or poke out, and be visible. So then we put a knee pad on the actual knees right there, both sides. And then, of course, this is an iguanodon, sort of the shin, I guess you could say, just above the feet for the iguanodon. And now I'm going to do a cog. You want the metal cog. That's just COG. And we're going to paint that sort of a lightish silver, metallic-y kind of color. And the Marauder, actually, you can see different artworks of it. So it doesn't always have this little like cog piece, I guess, right here. I'm sort of doing the neutral Marauder. A Marauder will take on, all of your units in StarCraft take on whatever color you are. So if you're on like the red team, or if you're blue for that match, or any color for that matter, your units will match that color. So now we've got an eyebrow. We're going to put that, it's like these hose pieces or whatever. It's just some siphons or hose or something that are on the suit right there in the middle. That's what the eyebrow is going to be on both sides. And then it does have this like skull print design, whatever label, I guess, there on the shoulder. It's the left shoulder of the Marauder. It's to our right. So we're going to put that on there for a skull. And then I'm going to do cup. So we'll put that, basically attach it to the body, but put it behind the body and make it go up to where the head is. There's a lot of stuff, the head actually for the Marauder's armor is sort of small. It's like the Juggernaut, if you've seen, X-Men, the Juggernaut. It's sort of like his helmet almost. It's big and hemisphere shaped. And then we're going to put a VHS tape, but behind the head, there's a big piece that comes up from the armor, I guess. The armor looks like it would be extremely heavy, but the Marauder's a tough dude, I guess. So one other thing, just I guess two main things to note with this when you're creating it, if you are creating it, is that one, you want to make the body kind of fat-ish. You want to just increase the body without increasing the entire object as a whole. So click on your mecha's body and make it pretty wide and big. But then the other thing to remember is that there's really only about 3 different shades of like blackish gray here, and then there's some metallic gray colors and separate colors and stuff like that. But the main palette is just like the really dark black, the sort of middle darkish black, and then a sort of a lighter dark black. And right now we're using a ram's horn. We're actually going to put this behind everything that we have also been doing with these cups and the VHS tape there that are up at the top, kind of where the head is going to be. We will create the head and body separately for this object. We didn't do that for Trump because we didn't really need to save stamp space for that. But that's really the main motivation I guess one would have to create the head and the body separately, is you can get a lot of the other details in for your creation. And this game does have a stamp space limitation, meaning basically a stamp is any piece of the puzzle or any item that you're putting down to create your main object. So again, there is a limit to how many you can put down. I know it's called Scribblenauts Unlimited, and there is actually a limit. We're going to go ahead and make him explode an EMP grenade, and we'll make the explosion kind of small. This will still backfire on me, but I like to make the explosion small because often whenever my characters get into a skirmish, they get closer and closer to each other in proximity, and so just based on that, he's going to explode himself too. The explosion will hurt his own body. So even though he's the one shooting it out, our Marauder will still take damage from that explosion. And so now to create the head, we're going to go ahead and start off with a hemisphere shape. As I said earlier, the head is sort of hemisphere shaped as a whole, but we want that one to be a really dark black, the one that we start off with, and then we're going to make another one that's sort of this middle black tone. Again, we're sort of going with these 3 main black tones and then just a few other colors here and there, but those are the main, I guess, palettes of colors. And a road hump, that's going to be for the top. So this hemisphere right here that we've got in the back is going to be for the main part of the head. So I know that we started off with that source hemisphere, but it's really just going to be sort of for where the eyes are in the visor. And so that was a kangaroo. We took the end piece of a tail, but what I'm actually going to do is use a lizard and just take the middle tail piece. So not the end tail piece of the lizard, but this can shrink down a little bit smaller. So just in case I need the eyes to be a little bit smaller, I'm going to go ahead and use the lizard tail instead. They're almost virtually the same shape. There's just a very slight difference in curvature, but the kangaroo tail would probably work. It just doesn't shrink down as small as I want it to. This is the trapezoid shape, so you can go into the geometry library on Scribblenauts Unlimited and pull it out there, or if you're in Unmasked, you're going to want to just type in trapezoid. So now here on the general 29-page library, we went to the 19th page and grabbed this arm that's in the top left corner. It's just a random arm shape, one solid color, but this is going to be sort of for these panels that are on the side, I guess, of the face armor for the Marauder. And it looks like it's all coming together. We're going to need to add in some of the other details though, but this this is really the main shape, I guess. 2 rectangles on either side in the corner. This is the middle body piece of a worm. We're gonna do that 4 times. And so we're doing it 4 times because there's a little bit of detail around it and whatnot. But first I'm gonna go ahead and place down this gelatin before I forget this detail. That's why I'm doing it sort of out of order. There we go. We can put down the last worm piece now. But there is sort of some details, I guess, that I also was gonna include up on the top, kind of where his forehead would be, I guess, or the top of the head armor. We're gonna also put down a salt shaker. We're gonna move the main parts of the salt shaker behind the gelatin that we just placed down, but we want the top of that salt shaker, all those little dots or holes, we want those to sort of be at the very top. So that's looking okay. Now we've got our worm pieces on either side. Again, there was 4 of them. One is a lighter sort of blackish color, and then one is the deep black that's on the inside. We're gonna use the bottom neck piece of a crane and paint that this almost yellowish orange color. These are sort of some like strange circuitry button type things, lights and stuff that are on the armor, so that's what that's going to represent. And in the scripting, whenever you're doing the head and the body object separately, you want to go into the equipment tab here on the properties editor and just make it so that it can be worn on the face like glasses. And so we'll go ahead and name this for our Marauder's head right there. Okay, looks good. And so again, I wanted the Marauder's head to be sort of small. It, the armor definitely is huge, but the head is just sort of smaller, I guess, within that. And all that other stuff, it looks like that VHS is mostly being covered, so if you want, you can raise that up a little bit or make the head smaller. Otherwise, that'll be a detail that we know about here, just us. And this is what I was talking about. I just placed down this angry beast, and you saw him shoot out the small explosion of the EMP grenade. And what happened is it did hurt the Marauder as well, so the Marauder took some damage, and it did do a lot of damage, so definitely this packs a punch, and I guess that's what it should do, The Marauder in Starcraft is decently powerful. It is, I guess, one of the early stage units that you get, but whatever. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and try a different sort of foe that he can fight. I guess we'll go with a powerful, strong bull. Yeah, that is not good enough either. What is gonna be able to take our Marauder down even a little bit, or at least just take one blast from the Marauder? Is a monster gonna be able to do it? I don't think so. So, yep. Looks like nobody can stand to the might of the Marauder. But I would just like to thank everybody for not only viewing this episode, but for the support that has poured in, over the last few weeks. We did a lot of cool stuff over the December, the Christmas break for most of you guys, but there's never really a break, is there? But I'm happy to bring you guys some of this content. And so again, I just create whatever is most popular or most requested each week. Go ahead and just request things from movies, TV, gaming, and nerd and geek culture related items. And that's what we'll stick to. And I love all of you. And I will catch you on the next vid. And thanks for viewing.
Down the road of twists and turns, always anxious to see what's within. We can look ahead to the point of no return, to the rest of our lives as a spectacle.